Welcome everyone to Sysco Canada's virtual kitchen show. We are super excited to bring to you, and I'm going to change the screen there. Canada Beef is our guest today on our show, and we're super excited to have Canada Beef here. And we're going to be showing you a lot of cool things today. I tell you, and it's really exciting for us. It's exciting for us to have a couple of their folks from their team and their company over to us. And Sysco Canada is a huge partner within Canada Beef and the things that we do with Canada Beef, and big supporter. So I'm going to introduce you to two folks from their side here in a second, and we're super happy to have them on our show today. So I'm just going to touch on a couple things before. On our Sysco Canada's Facebook page, we have a ton of shows that are coming up there within our Sysco Virtual Kitchen shows. Please check them out. Please visit us on YouTube as well. We have them up there for you. But we're going to bring you more content and more information as we move forward through the summer and through the fall as well through our virtual kitchen shows. So hopefully you can attend them, watch them on your own terms, and watch them when you can. So today we're happy to bring you some ideas and some information from Canada Beef and their team. And hopefully today you're going to enjoy some of what we're going to share with you. So super excited for all this. On that, also before we get started, is questions or comments you want to share with us or anything, you can type that out on the chat area, in the comment area within Facebook. Ask us questions and please chime in. So I'm going to introduce everyone. So let me just bear with me, push the button here. There we go. So hello everyone. Hi Dwayne, welcome to our show. Matthew, Chef Matthew is down there in the bottom. And we're going to move it over to Dwayne to do a little intro here. And then we're going to have Chef Matthew show you some cuts, also some ideation around products and ideas. Should be a pretty good show today. So Dwayne, over to you.
Thanks, Jay, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate the Sysco's initiative here to further help our food service partners with solutions during these times and throughout regular course of business. But there's no question that we're in an uncertain time. But at the same time, I also believe that there's opportunities to be had. And between Chef Matthew and myself, what our goal today is to give you a little bit of information with regards to beef, Canadian beef, and in the marketplace, as well as some culinary solutions for operators that really address a lot of different areas. And Chef Matthew will go through a number of points, but labor being one, utilization. We'll talk a little bit about taking advantage of products that are available to you that may be somewhat unfamiliar, however, have wonderful opportunities from a culinary perspective, and as well as from a potential labor and value as well. As Jay had mentioned, please ask questions. We really do appreciate the questions that you may have. I'll just take a couple minutes before I turn over to Chef Matthew with regards to give you a bit of an update on the Canadian cattle supply moment in time that we find ourselves in. Supply of Canadian beef in Canada continues to be steady. There is not necessarily a challenge with supplying beef. Canadian beef, where we have found the challenge is during our COVID and some of the experiences we had at the harvesting facilities, and those facilities ensuring the safety of workers and is production levels of product, certain cuts of beef, and the amount of volume that is able to go through a harvesting facility was challenged. And today we find ourselves in a fairly positive position when it comes to the volume of harvesting of animals through those facilities, and we're up to about seasonal levels in numbers, which is a real positive. But that being said, the ramifications of less animals coming to harvest produces sort of a backlog. And I'll just give you a kind of an example. If an animal was scheduled to go today to the harvesting facility, but was put in in a queue, in a line, so to speak, for the next 4 to 6 weeks. What happens is that that animal is still cared for. The animal is still fed. I sort of equate it to the hotel. It's still at the hotel, being fed and slept and watered and cared for. But the difference is that animal, rather than going to harvest tomorrow, is another 4 weeks away. So someone somewhere has to incur that cost. So the reason why I share this with you, as I mentioned, harvesting numbers are growing, and we're getting back to those seasonal levels. We still may see some uncertainty in pricing as we move through the backlog of animals, and I would anticipate somewhere in that 4 to 6 week mark to get back to numbers that we're used to. So positive is there's plenty of Canadian beef available. We always recommend having a strong relationship with your sales representative. As Chef Matthew begins to talk about a certain cut of beef, there may be opportunities on other cuts of beef, and having that relationship with your sales representative is crucial to be able to take advantage of those opportunities that present themselves. Jay, with that, I can turn over to Chef Matthew if he's available, unless there's some questions or clarification.
No, I think that's great, Dwayne. I'm going to move over to Chef Matthew. We have no questions coming through to this, but great insights into what's happening in the beef market and really what's happening out there. It's such a, I always reference this time right now, is this whole pause moment. We're kind of in this weird pause, shift, transition as we understand what's happening in our industry. We really don't know what this is going to look like, even predicting what the summer is going to look like. I don't know. Have you ever experienced anything like this or even remotely close to this? I know it's hard to compare, but back in 2008, we did, when the economy did turn down, and we had some, I guess that's the closest thing that we can kind of compare this to possibly. Is there any things like reference to what happened then to today, Dwayne?
We took lessons from 2008, Jay, and did incorporate many of those learnings. The one learning that we found with the cattle industry is that we have that ability to maintain animals at a certain weight or a certain point within the value chain, and we incorporated those within the industry. And industry addressed worker safety, worked with the Canadian government very closely on those safety protocols as well. During this time, a similarity is the challenge of exporting for different types of reasons. During this time, export markets were closed due mostly to food service in those markets being shut down, but also from a worker perspective, people were at home, and so those ramifications as well do represent challenges as it relates to what we consider our carcass utilization, and some of the cuts that here in Canada, dare say North America, that are unfamiliar. We export to markets that see high value for those products, and so that is producing an opportunity actually here in Canada primarily for our food service culinary folks who are attending today.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. I believe some of those cuts will come back, and we'll see some different diversification when it comes to products and different things that people are going to do with them again. I think we'll get clever once again in the industry. Pretty cool. Awesome. So let's go over to Chef Matthew. I'm going to mute him here, and we're going to bring him up. So Chef, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having us, and welcome to the audience. This is one of our first sort of digital engagements here at the Canadian Beef Center of Excellence. So our facility here, purpose-built to showcase opportunities with the Canadian beef product, connect in the marketplace, and so really this is a trial for us, and we appreciate it. One of the things that we are purpose-built for is building value for the Canadian beef carcass and for cuts. And so depending on market conditions, you're always going to see different pricing. And as chefs out there who have reopened or planning to reopen in the next little bit, they're going to have a sort of a new pricing structure, I guess, to work with, as we've seen retail demand super strong through these past few months, and then now a shift back into opening up for restaurant and food service business. And so what we're going to look for at this time, us as chefs, is those hidden gems, those real values in the Canadian beef carcass. Our job, working for Canadian beef producers, to maximize the value of the product, and for the chef as the culinary creator, bringing that clientele in to enjoy Canadian beef. People are going to come back expecting to see beef on the menus. And so what we've been focusing on is finding options that are going to be very versatile for those menus, flexibility for the chefs to move between different categories in the menu, appetizer, main course, and then just to have that understanding of who your clientele is and finding that product that's going to meet their needs. So we're going to look at one cut in particular today, and this one that has almost seen an exclusive use in food service through smokehouse type restaurants. And so we're talking about briskets, beautiful Canadian beef brisket. And so I've got one here in original packaging from our Canadian beef packers. Right away, we see the attributes of Canadian beef: beautiful red meat color, luxurious, beautiful white fat. And these are prized in smoking because of that quality of the fat, and that fat that cooks through the leaner part of the beef in the cooking process and moisturizes it, tenderizes it over a long, slow cook. Not everybody is set up to do smoking, and so we're going to look at this cut through a different lens for an operation that is going to be looking to incorporate multiple applications, or using one cut for multiple applications in their menu. And right now, I think this is a really good opportunity to look into briskets, look into other products too, like we call them the hidden gems. Talk to your suppliers, talk to your reps, make sure you are getting them working for you to help fine tune your menu offers. This one right here, we actually prepped it up in advance here at the Center of Excellence. I've got our sous chef, I say we because we are a team, Chef Cameron Papel, and we cooked one overnight. And I'll just give you a look at this because super simple. From the raw state, open up the bag, put it into a hotel pan, and we actually cooked this one in a combi oven technology. Overnight, slow cooking, 70 degrees is the final temperature on this. Took about 8 to 10 hours, I would say, on this one. But just to show you how simple, how easy, and in terms of labor savings, there is no cutting involved. Straight from the bag, a little bit of seasoning into the combi oven. And if we want to take a quick look here, this is the decal portion. And we're going to see that just melt in your mouth tenderness, that beautiful quality. And so this is a cut that you could put on your menu. A piece of that as a 5-ounce portion, a 6-ounce portion as an entree. Lots of potential here that we're going to explore a little bit more in detail. But that's easy, basically labor-free, and huge yield from the brisket here. Now we're going to look at it a little closer in a muscle profiling. Set this aside for now. So we're going to muscle profile.
Chef, I was just going to jump on here with Dwayne here for a second. As Dwayne is enjoying this. This is awesome. The one thing I just want to mention, because I remember in 2008, the smokehouses and pulled pork and when we were doing the brisket, it was really big at that time too. Like, I'm assuming it really didn't go away. It became really a big movement, but I think it really surged in that 2008 time as well. And I think it was based on cost. Would you agree on that, Dwayne?
Yeah, that's right, Jay. And similarly as well, during this time is in 2008, the ability to be able to move products, whether they be here within Canada or, of course, at that time export. We find ourselves in a similar situation, and those are the lessons that we were able to learn to be able to then start to adapt items here in Canada that we would normally see in other marketplaces. But as time rolled on, we have found ourselves kind of falling back into the status quo, whatever that references. And now today we're seeing again that reassurance of, well, there are different pieces within that animal that are, with proper cooking methods, are wonderful, have wonderful culinary and flavor profiles.
Okay, cool. It just brings back so many memories because I was there living through that time period in Beeftown, in Cattletown, and I remember us showing briskets all the time, and what a great product. So versatile. So, Chef, back to you. Sorry.
Thanks, no problem. I appreciate that. Absolutely, so versatile. So we got another raw one right here. So that's our brisket. When we get into the muscle profiling, when we get into cutting and in-house butchery for chefs and for their teams, I guess one thing we need to be super concerned with, of course, is the health and safety of our teams. And so, a couple of things just to keep in mind right away when you're doing this kind of knife work, safety is the key. And so make sure that your team member understands the job, understands what they're doing, has the right tools, whether they are their own or the house tools. Basic tools are all that's required to work on a brisket. It's actually quite a forgiving cut to get to know in terms of beef processing in house. But a nice boning knife. Here our house knives are black handle color. I actually brought my own knife here because this is the one that I'm used to using. So I recommend the same for folks out there. Get to know your knife. Get to know not only knife but also the edge. And so do a little bit of your own knife sharpening. That's always good. And keep a steel handy just to do a quick zip on the knife to reset that edge. The more you know your knife, the more you know your edge, the safer you are, the quicker you're going to be, and the higher quality work you're going to do. And high quality work results in increased yield, better performance when it comes to your food cost and your opportunities to apply these cuts to your menu. The brisket. This beautiful brisket right here essentially breaks down into two parts. That's what we're going to do with it here today, and we'll show you a couple raw cuts from it. There is the slow cooking opportunities that we talked about from smoking and also from like a combi type oven application. You can do a traditional style braising options, the smoking as well. But then there's something that a lot of folks don't consider, which is actually the quality of the beef and the ability to cook from raw those cuts. So we're going to do cut a couple pieces from raw to show you like a dry heat cooking method. The decal, this is where the burnt ends come from. So that's that elevated piece and this muscle. The brisket has striations of fat. It's not exactly like marbling, but it performs a lot like marbling because you have this beautiful release of fat and connective tissues in the muscle as it slow cooks. Those are things to consider in terms of also grain direction. So when you finish your cuts on the plate for the customer or for your grilling, let's say, keep in mind that grain direction. We'll look at that in just a moment. Very easy to do. In fact, the decal part here comes off of the flat part. So that flat tends to be a little bit leaner. The decal tends to have a little bit more of that luxurious, luscious fat. We're going to identify where the decal meets that flat there. And you can see there is essentially a piece of fat here that we're going to pull away. And we just make a few cuts and start working away. The beauty of learning to do butchery on beef is that the muscles are fairly large. And so that way you're going to have a chance to identify the seams that separate those muscles. And so it's a good way just to get to know beef on your butcher block in your back of house.
So, Chef, what's one of the things that you see operators doing wrong all the time when it comes to this?
Well, generally, all cuts have some inherent challenges. Brisket, relatively forgiving because we can use a lot of it in different applications. So it's for brisket, like there's different approaches when you want to do the smoking techniques or the slow cooking techniques that we talked about. But essentially, I would say separating the two is a good start, especially if you want to get different kind of performance from each cut. So in the decal side, you're going to have really nice opportunities to do dry heat cooking methods like grilling or roasting on the flat side as well, but just a bit of a leaner, I guess, mouthfeel in the final product. Another thing I guess I would mention too is there's beautiful fat here. There's beautiful connective tissues. What I find sometimes is in getting really fussy with the product, we tend to remove too much and commit that to trim, where there's an opportunity to make money with the trim products. Let's say you get creative with your fat applications, or even just using, let's say, a little bit of lean trim here for your burger grind program, or do a little bit of like a pulled beef on a slow cook. Maximize all parts. That's what we always like to say here, and that's going to help make you money and find versatility for your menu applications.
And I would assume you see that sometimes with younger chefs or restaurateurs that keep trimming too much fat off.
Yeah. And it, sometimes you want a lean product, and it goes back to your segmentation in your market. Sometimes you want something that's a little leaner. Sometimes you've got that clientele that celebrates fat. You got some new diet trends out there that really celebrate fat intake. There's a nice piece of fat there. What we've been doing with the center is applications for fat. And what we believe, I mean, the fat is good for you. It's good for your brain health. Fat is a necessary part of human diet. So why not incorporate fat into other applications on your menu? So we do a lot of work with desserts, cookies, cakes, where we incorporate rendered beef fat, tallow, and replace expensive products high value products like butter. Chef Cameron and I were just talking about doing like boulangère potatoes with essentially clarified beef fat versus working with clarified butter. So you can layer, a beautiful pave. If you've got a steak plate, if you've got a beef dish, why not make it more beefy? And if you can use trim products that would otherwise be relatively low or zero value, only cost, build them into your menus, make a beefier beef dish. So I took a little bit of fat off there just to show that fat plug in the middle. We've got a little bit of fat on the top here. This is a nice, beautiful white attribute fat there. And you can trim it down a little or a lot. If you do that long, slow cook in the in a rationale or a slow braise, unnecessary to remove this. You can remove it later as you pick and just build your portions. So it just depends on the application. Now we can see here underneath a little bit of fat, not necessarily a bad thing. You can see here too, we've got that striation of that fat inside that muscle. Give you a little closer look here. So that's just lovely. That's where you get that beautiful juiciness from your slow cooked smoked products. And very similarly, we can build a dry heat cooking method cut from that decal. And so we've been working with some techniques that we've learned from clients overseas, applications that we'll see in the menu ideation that we're going to get to in just a few minutes here. But if we look at it as a dry heat cooking method, something that you might get into on a menu, let's say in Japan or in Latin American cooking, where you've got a yakiniku type slice, a thin sliced steak that cooks up quickly. So a cut that you think would otherwise take 8, 10, 12 hours smoking time or braising time is actually a beautiful and phenomenal steak cut like that, just grilled up, super nice. And because we cut it against the grain, that is actually like a very soft mouthfeel. There's ways to marinate, there's ways to score, there's ways to carve for plated preparations and presentations, and that's just a lovely piece of that decal. Put this here. All right.
I know one of the chefs, I was going to mention just one of the chefs I work with. He does that all the time. He'll take brisket or roasts and he'll cut steaks out of them. Very inexpensive way of really getting a good product, and kind of fun too to create something unique like that.
Totally. So now we talk about the leaner plate side. we got a little bit of extra fat here, but like I said, rendering this out, it's an easy method. We've got some techniques we can share with you. We have actually a video collection coming together where we're going to feature utilization of trim fat. This is also perfect for a burger program. If you could do some in-house grinding, brisket just adds a beautiful sweet butteriness to your burgers. We can also make bacons, cured charcuterie type products with the decal, because it does perform really nicely, like as that kind of lean cut, and it'll cook up nice. There's some really neat like applications of heritage theming that can come from working with a brisket and working with that higher level of fat content in some of those cooking preparations that you might think of when you see like pork belly on a menu. Pork belly often paired with leaner items like seafood, incorporating spice, incorporating sweetness. So this is where your decal is gonna, or sorry, your plate side, the flat, is gonna perform beautifully for as that full braid. So I'll show you a couple little yakiniku style thin sliced steaks.
Is that like a 1/4 of an inch, or?
Yeah, I would say this is just slightly more than a 1/4 of an inch, somewhere between a 1/4 and a half.
Okay.
Those marinated up to make skewers.
Wow.
Very similarly to bacon. Beautiful there. And so that's that flat side. And
cool.
You can see that difference in the marbling. So you're gonna have, and like I said, we talked about that market segmentation. So know your clientele, someone who wants something that's gonna perform a little bit leaner versus somebody who's gonna want something that has a little bit more of that beautiful, like luscious, luxurious fat in there. All right. So that's the brisket and the basic breakdown and the muscle profiling approach. A little bit of trim to use up, lots of different applications. Our new video collection is going to be soon launched on our website. We have a new trade website that's called Canadian Beef Performs. That's cdnbeefperforms.ca. I think we've got a mention of it on your screen there. And so that's where we're going to find that collection for all those great videos that are coming up soon.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, because we know operators are busy and there's things going on. To be able to go on there and just reference it when they want to, it's awesome stuff.
Totally. Cut specific, technique specific, for enthusiast level, professional level, butchers and chefs. It's going to be an awesome collection of content there.
Awesome. So Dwayne, are we seeing briskets get bigger right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. As we know, carcass sizes have increased over the last 10 or 15 years. But there are some cuts that will stay relatively close in size. Briskets have gotten bigger, for sure, as we know in our middle meats, where we're getting larger eyes on our rib eyes and our T-bone steaks and whatnot. But the positive is, when it comes to cuts such as the brisket, relatively speaking, the size is modest in growth. Another product, an inside round cut of beef as well. Modest in size, but where we really see it are those middle meats, where we really want a 6-ounce or a 10-ounce or an 8-ounce portion that's 3/4 to an inch.
Yeah, and I think that's the same with strip loins, right? Like,
correct.
Those primaries. We actually had some last night here, and I noticed they were very skinny, thick, but very skinny, right? The traditional style New York or strip loin. And it was very interesting just to see that cut on how narrow they're getting for operators. So that plate coverage could be questioned, I would assume. And then using something like this brisket, it does offer some really good plate coverage for operators.
Yeah, and uniqueness in terms of from an operations perspective. We're very cautious from the back of the house in not trying to introduce an obscure ingredient for operators. And thinking about pulled beef and the brisket, well, thinking, I think to myself, chicken wings and all those different spices you have and all the different flavor profiles for chicken wings. Well, why wouldn't you be able to incorporate that into your brisket sandwich or pulled beef of some sort, and offer a teriyaki, a honey garlic, salt and pepper, the same spices a la carte for each customer.
No, love it. Great idea. Awesome. Awesome. Love that idea. You know, there is so many things I think we haven't even really touched when it comes to innovation yet. Because like you said, we kind of previous, you said, you know, we kind of been stuck. We saw innovation in 08 come out and new products or old products come back, and we played with them and did different things with them. And then to see that come back again is kind of exciting. And to see what other people come up with.
Chef Matthew had mentioned about the fat of the brisket. I think some of our culinary audience may be familiar with beef brisket burgers. Well, one of the reasons that beef brisket burger has such a unique flavor and bite to it, Jay, is that fat is not similar to back fat, let's say, that you would see on a T-bone or a strip loin or your ribeye or your sirloin. It's a different type of a fat. And that fat, Chef Matthew had used the word buttery.
Yeah.
And it is. It's really a different type of a product. So thinking about point of differentiation in your own operations, introducing and doing a little bit of research on that brisket point fat, it will separate your burger program from your competitor's burger program.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I didn't even think of it. So there's different flavor within different fats, within different cuts.
Yeah.
On the cow. Oh, didn't know that. I thought I would assume all fat tasted the same from that one cow.
And the culinary audience, they'll recognize. Chef Matthew had mentioned he renders tallow. Tallow is a different type of a fat altogether as well. Yeah. Yeah. And so understanding that even the different profiles of the offcut or the trimmings actually may produce a point of differentiation and value within operations.
Wow, that's brilliant. And then to use those fat for other purposes in the kitchen, and not because I've thrown out a lot of fat off of cuts in the past. It just goes right into the garbage. But to use that in different ways and different methods, unbelievable. Can't wait to watch those videos, because that is definitely, it's a lot of money. Like you throwing in the garbage, right?
Well, years ago, if I recall, the service of removing your waste was complimentary, and at one time, you were able to, you were paid for your waste. Well, today it is a cost, and I know the camps up north in wherever Canada, well, they've got to pay to have those, that product removed, the wastes. And so further being able to utilize the products in-house within menu, not only from a responsibly sustainable using of your product and addressing food waste, there is a cost advantage as well, because now today, if I'm not mistaken, you're being charged for your waste collection. So there's another advantage of being able to take a little bit of time and consider further utilization of all product.
Yeah, and I think it's important just from an environmental aspect, is using everything that you have within that product opposed to just throwing it out. I know from an end operator, you want to save all as much as you can within the money that you generate. Then there's a bonus, because now knowing that fat has different flavor, which I find fascinating, utilizing it different ways can create such a different experience. And then we talked a lot through this whole COVID thing. It's just the multi-purposes for using different products for different ways. So you're not having to bring in a whole bunch of new SKUs into your operation. Is being able to use it multiple ways is fascinating and great for cost. Brilliant. Brilliant. How's Chef doing here? We ready, Chef? Oh, I got to unmute you. There we go.
All right, cool.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff.
Right on, Dwayne. Thank you, and thank you, Jay. So we just went to work here to put a few plated concepts together. I'm going to come back to these in just a moment. I'm going to ask Chef Cameron to come in and zoom in here on these two, because we're just going to put these finishing touches on. Chef Cameron, may I? You'll see. If you just want to angle this over here for a second. Awesome, thanks. Okay, so we talked about the brisket, and we talked about different parts of it, and we looked at a couple different preparation methods so far, talking about smoking, talking about combi oven, slow cook. We also did some sous vide, and these are beautiful because individually portioned, easy for mise en place and service. We cook these in the bag as separate portions, get a little bit of a different textural finish on there, a little bit of a workable texture in that it's not going to pull. It's going to be easy. If you want to carve it, you can carve the finished portion in half. What I recommend is taking these sous vide portions. I think we cooked these at 64 thereabouts. It took about 12 hours, and then from there, take these, put them back in a bath immersion circulator. You could just reheat them in a pan, also very simply. Makes beautiful mise en place, as I mentioned, keeps really well. And then at that point, that's where you're going to incorporate other flavor profiles. We've got one here that we're going to show you, just a Kentucky peach and maple glaze that we finished one of these beauties with. So another option there in terms of application for brisket on your menu. We're going to take a quick look here and build a quick appetizer. And so in the beef, we're always looking for incorporation of our product into first courses. And now, as we see under the conditions, the social physical distancing, patio business, we're looking for patio favorites here coming up. And so we have created essentially a snackable item, individually portioned, like something like what a chicken wing might be, but here individually portioned and irresistible, crispy, and full of juice and beautiful fat. So what we did, we took some of those braised nuggets, or we took some of those braised portions, cut them up into pretty squares. So these are from that flat side, and cut them up into these pretty little squares, and nice and cold, deep fried. We're going to dress them up on a plate. So you got this beautiful, nice chunk of juicy Canadian beef brisket. We'll get fancy with a little bit of a lovely sauce here. This is like a gochujang type of finishing glaze. And similarly to the innovations in chicken wing cookery, take those beautiful chunks, drop them in that gochujang glaze them up nice so that we get them nicely covered with sweet and spicy. And now this is going to be irresistible for that patio menu, individually portioned to enjoy with a beer or a glass of wine. And nice little chunks here to go as an opener.
Dwayne, this is such a cheap and expensive product. Chef, great idea. Just like when you think of that, because that is, you think of chicken wings, and that's beat up chicken wing costs, but they tend to be pricey sometimes. And this would be very fractional, I believe, within the cost.
Absolutely.
Dwayne, you want me to unmute you? I muted you. Sorry, Dwayne.
That's okay. Well, and that kind of goes back to through the technique that Matthew had spoken with regards to cooking techniques. Front quarter cuts, for the most part, tend to be more on a retail side, or maybe a braised beef type of an application, a longer cooking application. But to your point, being able then to take concepts and understanding cooking methods, you can create wonderful, unique dishes and be able to address or take advantage of pricing opportunities as they become available.
What a great idea! Love it. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Wayne. Chef, what do you got next?
Yeah. All right. So we did our opener, the appetizer. These crispy brisket nuggets, brisket beef bites. Get creative. That's one thing. Put that creative passion to naming your dishes, to celebrating the elements, Canadian product sourcing, and incorporating Canadian cuisine, along with some of that fusion from more exotic cuisines from around the world. We're going to plate up a main course here, quick and easy. A little bit of a garnished veg, some mashed potatoes. You know, get creative, get crazy, do whatever you like. But when it comes to a portion, so this is one of those sous vide style brisket portions. So right now with attractive pricing on brisket and something comparable to a steak presentation. This is the one glazed with peach and Kentucky bourbon glaze. Basic presentation there. You can get, you know, crazy with the microgreens, fancy it up a bit. And there you have your plated entree concept. Lovely, easy, and also I think a very economical option right now for folks. You've got millennials and you've got the Gen Zs that are returning back to the food service scene. They're going to want to eat a variety of concepts. They're going to want to share that with their friends through social media. And so the brisket, as you can see, offers a lot of potential in terms of meeting a lot of those different market segments and what they're looking for in terms of cuisine. And we've got a variety to show you, so I can keep going if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, let's keep it. Can you get a close up of that brisket plate there? You
close up shot here, Chef.
Just because, like, I know we're not going to talk price, Dwayne, but there has to be, and Chef, there has to be a very low cost to that dish, and that looks beautiful to be able to charge something for it. Great idea. Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. You know, if you can hear me, when you can plate up a nice portion of beef, clientele out there right now. I mean, some of us through COVID, you're going to see that some people, you know, kind of, I guess that, you know, put on a few pounds and enjoyed a little bit of a lighter duty lifestyle. But others, you know, they've really focused on their health and they focused on their fitness. And you can see some people have been really working out in this time. And people who work out need more protein in their diet. They're going to want to maintain that physique that they've managed to achieve, and they're going to want to eat, you know, beef because it is a full protein source. It is and it's loaded with flavor, and it really delivers in terms of satisfaction for the eater. So a couple of more ideas here. So let's look at the lighter side. We've got here a Vietnamese-style salad plating. So this is from that thin cut sort of yakiniku style or a satay type skewer. We did a bit of a marinade on this with a little bit of a fish sauce, a little bit of a sweet chili, and let it marinate overnight. Thin slices. I would say this is, you know, close to 3 ounces of brisket on the plate, and we've got a simple slaw and a little bit of a vinaigrette there. Some fresh elements as a starter, as a main course for patio business. Pair that with a bright white wine, and or beer, and you know, even something non-alcoholic, because this is very health focused and provides that lovely beef element. We've got more. We've got back to something a little bit more on that kind of fun food, satisfy cravings. This one inspired from Baja cuisine. So this is the papas of the Baja. So if you go down to Mexico and then you've traveled and you see these beautiful mesquite barbecue grills, you've got chicken, you've got pork, and beautiful beef preparations. For the folks who want something that's menu, like price point focused, something that's an affordable option, here we go with a potato concept, like loaded garnish with cheese, melted cheese, peppers. We've got sour cream, green onions. You know, you can figure that one out pretty easy. But this really satisfies, fills you up, enjoyable, and plated here individually for patio type business for this summer. Here we go into Asian skewer. And so an Asian skewer concept, kushiyaki, also Japanese influence. We've got it plated up with some baby bok choys we just simply grilled. Also here, a little bit of that thin slice, marinated, topped with some of the usual suspects in Asian cuisine on skewers. And something that, you know, people usually associate eating skewers individually, but here plated up basically as a single, or to share with your you know, close friends and family. The skewers are fun to eat, but you don't have to have the brisket on a skewer for it to be enjoyable in a thin slice. And that brings us over here to our plated concept with that thin slice in the Japanese style yakiniku. So that would be the deckle piece. You can see that beautiful lace of fat in the meat, dressed up with fries, and finishing with a little bit of aioli or cream or that classic Japanese mayonnaise type of stuff. So back to indulgent. We've got that's the pulled brisket. So cook the brisket just a little bit longer. We've got the open face, or sorry, it's a closed sandwich, but it's with brisket abundance here. Lots of lovely celebration of that fat in the pulled beef. We finish it with jus. This is really like something that I've seen in menus in Asia for that pub style cuisine where you've got a steak sandwich with pulled beef that eats with a fork and knife, so hot and wet, absolutely delicious. Served up with fries, easy. Like we've got 4 elements on the plate here. Easy to do, easy to execute. Mise en place is easy. Cook the brisket, pull the brisket, store it, and then load it up into portion sizes. We've got videos coming out shortly on exactly how to make this preparation, and not only with the brisket, but with other pooling cuts. And then I would say now that we've had a chance to eat this broad menu here and explore it, I've got one sweet treat to showcase here at the end of it, but I can. But if you guys want to chat first a little bit about the savory side, happy to do that too.
So Dwayne, thanks, Chef. Dwayne, I'm just going to go to you for a sec here. Some of the things that Chef showed us here, how much of that brisket that he was prepping before would that have been used, all those dishes? I would say it'd be a very small fraction, right? Like I'm blown away by the amount that you can get out of a big brisket in multiple dishes. Easily.
Well, that's right, Jay. And thinking of operations and being able to customize to your operation, a portion size in these types of manners, the pulled side or the little pieces. Yeah. From a portion control perspective, whether you choose to have the beef as a complement to a dish, mm-hmm. Which ounce to 2 or maybe 3 ounces, to the hero, maybe 3 to 4 ounces. But the ability for you to be able to make those decisions at operations level on food costs and contribution, and being able to complement the product, whether it's complementing the beef with one of your coleslaw, you're known for your coleslaw, really provides options for operators, from a main dish, an entree, right through to an appetizer, to a complimentary, a value add, to an extra $2, an extra $3 for your nachos on your pizza, et cetera, et cetera.
I just think it's brilliant, to be honest. Like, we have restaurants out there, you can't paint it that it's great out there, but they are getting back and they're fighting a fight to get back into the new norm or into some more business, that they just don't have the revenue to be able to bring in multiple different proteins. That you guys showed one product here multiple ways that I'm still kind of shell-shocked of how many amazing they were with one product. Like, I'm just blown away. Because there's a cost savings there. And I think it was Chef Matthew that said the other day, and I've stolen his concept, saying that menu fatigue is going to be a big factor as we move forward. We better patent that terminology, because I really believe he's bang on. Because we're going to have to adjust menus more frequently to draw regulars in or people interested in what we're doing. And I'm blown away by how many versatile, great ideas that look phenomenal on what that's going to look like out of one item. I'm just blown away.
There's a place for a steak, and your customer and guests will continue to desire and want that steak. There's a place for a burger, and the burger offers numerous options as well from a culinary perspective. Mm-hmm. But to your point, Jay, as well, is frequency of culinary profiles at within the food service operations, I believe, is key to not only retain customers, but also to to make yourself known to add customers. You're a destination location, and whether it be on limited time offers or weekly specials, how you choose to run your features, that ability to be able to bring in a product with multiple uses, multiple flavor profiles from one cut of beef, it's going to offer you a point of differentiation, and I would say as well a value proposition.
Yeah, I'm just, when we were building the Sysco Virtual Kitchen concept and the idea about bringing ideas and things like this to our customers, this is exactly it right here. You guys nailed it. I'm being able to show them ideas that are versatile and be able to help their business out by, like not being saying, hey, you got to bring all these different cuts in. Here's one that you can do multiple ways, and you guys nailed it on it. I can't thank you enough, and I'm sure our customers will too. These are brilliant ideas. So let's go over to Chef. Chef, you got your surprise.
Yeah. So this is I was talking a little bit about that utilization of fat, utilizing all the products that come through your door as much as you can, limiting waste, and like you mentioned, Jay, it's a responsibility. As chefs, we look after food, we look after guests. We want to build as much of that value onto the plate, and when those plates come back to the kitchen, we want to see that they've been well enjoyed. And so here, an idea around how to use fat, and this is just a kind of a creative way, I think, to enhance menus. Here at the Canadian Beef Center of Excellence, we've got the creative license to put beef fat in everything, and so here we have applied it. Not just on the sweet side, but when we talked about that boulangère potato, when you've got an opportunity to use clarified butter, but if it's going to go on your beef plate, and through your market segmentation that your beef plate serves your customer that enjoys beef, well, incorporate more beef into that beef plate. Build it into your potatoes, build it into your vegetables, try doing confits, use it up. In this case, here on the sweet side for the dessert, so these are all beef fat preparations. We typically go from about a 50-50 ratio to incorporate beef fat, which is easily rendered, quickly clarified, basically just strained, chilled, and then used to offset butter or vegetable oil. So in this case, we've got double chocolate. You want to zoom in for me, Chef Cameron, please? So double chocolate chip cookies, or double chocolate cookies with chocolate chips, dark chocolate, white chocolate, just absolutely amazing. They come out nice and tender, moist and delicious. We've got a bread pudding here that we've pulled all of the vegetable fat out of and incorporated beef fat. So here on the sweet side, but consider making a bread pudding that is more on the savory side to incorporate into your beef dishes. Coming over here to this side, we've got the white chocolate blondies, incorporating a little bit of seasonal rhubarb and apples. This serves up really super nice with cheddar cheese, a little dust of sugar to caramelize it a little bit. And then, of course, favorite chocolate brownies, which are just do awesome with beef fat inclusion. We build it into our breakfast pastries. So we've got beef fat muffins here. We've got oat and apple muffins with a little crumble topping. This ratio tends to be more on like the 50-50 side. And you know what, like your guests are going to perceive notes of beef. It's not a beefy muffin, but it does have that savory quality. So I think it really comes down to romancing those elements on your menus, ensuring that your front of house team understands that creativity in the applications that you're working with, the cuts, the temperatures, the expectations for the guests in terms of what they're going to get from the kitchen. And then so here, a ta-da of a beef fat chocolate ganache torte. And so incorporating beef fat as a replacement to some of the cream and butter that goes into the preparation of a classic ganache torte. So some ideas here for inspiration, for your beef focused or meat centric menus out there where there is a celebration of animal protein. Build animal protein, build beef into your dessert offering. Celebrate it.
Wow, I'm speechless, Dwayne. I hope you're close to having some of that.
Too close.
It is awesome, Chef. You know what? and you know, we have a lot of chefs and work with a lot of chefs and stuff like that. These ideas are outstanding, and kudos to you. Like, it just top shelf.
Thank you.
Work here, and just beautiful presentations as well.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, we're here for this, and so you know, reach out for the audience out there. I mean, I'm sure you're going to invite them to to touch base with us, touch base with your Sysco representatives, and let us help you with your menu offerings.
You know, and they can go to I have it across the bottom here, but they can go there and check out different ideas from you and different videos you guys are putting up.
Brand new site, under construction. We've got right now a lot of focus on training, and especially training in response to some concerns around safety on the production side, but soon to offer a vast collection. I think we've filmed about 45 videos to date over the past few weeks. We've turned our facility here into a studio, and so yeah, like I mentioned, technique-based, cut-based, lots of great ideas there just to come for inspiration. And all the videos are about 2 minutes, so they really just move you quick through the idea so that you can go to work in your own kitchen.
Well, that's outstanding, and just incredible ideas there. I just can't thank you enough, Chef, for those. Are just outstanding. Camera guy's awesome too, by the way.
Camera guy, compliment. Bravo.
Awesome stuff. So Dwayne, last words, advice, would you like to take and share with the guests before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think just really kind of reiterate a few of the things that we've sort of touched on today, and I'll highlight, you know, Canadian beef and veal as well, and down the road, Jay, anticipate a veal seminar session as well. But that relationship with your Sysco sales representative is as important today as it has ever been, and so being prepared for those opportunities, whether the cut comes from the front quarter, the brisket, the hip, and other areas within the carcass that we may not be familiar with, will put yourself in a wonderful position to be able to take advantage of those opportunities as they show themselves, as well as simply as the dessert. We know local, Canadian is very important. Through your marketing efforts, whether they be in-house or through some of your social digital channels and others, speak towards the attributes and the value of your Canadian beef program. Loud and proud, our beef farmers across Canada take the responsibility of growing safe food to feed the world globally very seriously, right across Canada. So whether you're on Vancouver Island through the prairies into central Canada, Ontario, Quebec, and our Maritimes and Atlantic friends, those beef farmers are very cautious and committed to ensuring the products that you receive on a day-out-day basis is safe, consistent, and we know globally recognized. So I suppose those are kind of my last a few comments. Jay, thank you very much for having Canada Beef be part of the series. This is a wonderful initiative. I took in all 3 last week, and I anticipate taking in future seminars and sessions, and we look forward to continuing to show value and with our Canadian beef product. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome, Dwayne. And Chef, just going to zoom back to you because look at the spread that he's got there. That's just amazing. I'm just blown away. It's beef briskets. They're so versatile, and just the ideas you came up with, Chef. I just can't thank you enough. So awesome. Thanks so much. We'll see you again. And Dwayne, always a pleasure in supporting us and supporting what we're doing and being a part of working with Sysco. We're very, very, very proud of that and very proud of our relationship and what we're doing. So thanks again. And we'll see you guys soon on our next show.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Chef.
Thank you, Jay. Pleasure.
You bet.